Hi, and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Jerry Roberts. Tonight, as we continue our special series of interviews focused on the November 7th election, we're talking with the two major candidates for City Council in District 5. Joining us are Warner McGrew. Warner is a fourth-generation resident of Santa Barbara who worked for the City Fire Department for 35 years, including 15 years as fire marshal. And for the last 7 years, he served as Santa Barbara Fire Chief before retiring in 2006. And Eric Friedman. Eric has lived in Santa Barbara County since 1980 and was educated in local public schools. He earned a BA in history from Notre Dame and a master's in public administration from Cal State Northridge. For 14 years, he worked as an aide to Supervisors Salud Carbajal and the late Naomi Schwartz. Welcome, and thank to both of you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, one of my pet peeves, Warner, is I don't think the city's done a very good job of educating people about district elections and where the districts are and where they vote or anything. Can you describe what District 5 is geographically for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Well, first of all, thanks for having us this evening. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming.
You bet. District 5 is basically runs from the ocean to Foothill Boulevard, Foothill Road, and then parallels Las Positas, and it kind of blurbs out a little bit for San McCann. And then it goes west to the city limit line, and it picks up the airport. So District 5 has the airport and that western part of the city of Santa Barbara.
And
Outer State Street.
Eric, can you talk about the demographics of the people who live there, younger, older, renter, homeowners? What?
We have a lot of homeowners who have lived there many years, and there's also pockets of first-time condo owners and renters, pockets in certain neighborhoods there. So it's a very eclectic mix, but primarily homeowners in the district.
Yeah. And Warner, what came over you to decide to run for city council?
Well,
nice retirement.
I came to Santa Barbara in 1966, so I've lived here for about 52 years now, and I've really grown to love the community, and I've raised my family here, and again, I've got 4 generations of McGrews embedded in this community, and so I'm not liking what I see with regard to the future of Santa Barbara. We don't have a vision for the future, a 5-year, a 10-year, and that connected with some direction from City Council is very much needed today. We need to revitalize our malls, Lower State Street area, La Cumbre Plaza. There's an issue with the homeless folks and the unsheltered community out there. So I'm very interested in helping out with that. I think I bring a lot to the table with regard to experience, how to use the system within city government, and how to make things better and provide some direction for our city staff.
So I hear Warner saying the city's on the wrong track, that City Hall's not doing a very good job. What, you agree with that, Eric?
Yeah, I think we can do more than what we've done. One of the reasons I'm running is I want to have the perspective of a younger family with kids in the elementary school system. I have a 3rd and a 5th grader at Monte Vista where I attended, and to have that perspective, because when you're looking at housing, when you're looking at economic development, you're really looking towards the future. And to have that perspective of a parent, that lens on there, I think it's important. All the challenges Warner mentioned, water is chief among them. And I think right now that it's kind of, we had 9 inches of rain in one day this last February, and it shifted the conversation. But we're one of, I think, only 2 counties that's still in a drought, and yet it's not, to me, it's the #1 issue, and it's kind of fallen off. So I want to get us back on track on water, because that pretty much predicates our affordable housing, our environmental goals, and all these things. So I think we can do more.
So when you go door to door and meet with voters in various venues and so on, is water the #1 issue that you hear about? What's the #1 thing that people are concerned about?
Well, #1 thing I'm hearing about is the homeless issue and people that are reluctant to go down on State Street. In fact, that's their opening statement. I'm not going downtown anymore. So that's unfortunate. So I think the police department has got a great program in place right now with the restorative policing effort that the new chief has brought. And in fact, I think it came about during Cam Sanchez's era. But in any event, it's been a success. It's being more successful as it grows. I intend to help support that, support the treatment of the folks that the fire department responds to from a medical emergency standpoint, police department connect with, and there needs to be some form of triage and helping the folks in when they run into the people in the street and they're called to help out, they need some specific direction, and mental health has to be part of that. I think we're behind the curve on mental health, and there's going to need to be some conversation with the city and the county to bring that together. It's going to have to be a collaborative effort, but the police department is taking I think a great step. In fact, it was in the paper this morning. I saw that things are going well with their program, and I would just applaud them for that, and intend to spend more effort and time supporting that.
Is homelessness the number one thing you hear at the door when
It's
you
an
talk
issue.
to voters?
It is an issue, but the number one issue is water. When that comes up, people start talking, and we'll have 5-10 minute conversations. It also goes into affordable housing, or just housing in general, preservation of neighborhoods. So most people acknowledge we need to have some housing to look at the supply for rents in the next generation, but they also want a neighborhood preservation. But when we talk about water, the first question is, if we're going to build this new housing, how are we going to do that without the water? What are we doing with Kachuma? Why did Kachuma suddenly become a 4-year lake when it's been a 7-year lake throughout its history? And so that's the number one issue I'm hearing is water, and then housing, infrastructure, and homelessness is an issue in regards to the downtown.
What can you as a city councilman do about the water issue?
So the next city council, and actually the next 7 members of the city council, have a unique opportunity in regards to Lake Kachuma, which is our largest, local, cheapest, reliable source of water. And the contract to manage Lake Kachuma between the county and the Bureau of Reclamation is up in 2020, so it's just over 2 years from now. And if you go back and read the grand jury report from 2015-16, it goes into how we kind of mismanaged the lake in the last drought. And so that contract, we have to have a contract that serves the next 25 years. So, 2, 4, 10 years from now, we'll still be talking about housing, we'll still be talking about 101, we'll still be talking about the homeless, but we won't have an opportunity to get a new contract. So me, that's actually one of the number one issues that the next council is going to have to delve into, and work with the other water districts to make sure we have an adequate contract going forward.
We hear a lot of talk about State Street, and you brought it up, but I think something people don't talk about so much, which is in your district, is La Cumbre Plaza, which is, pretty quiet. And
It's pretty quiet out there.
I mean, there's no panhandlers on private property there, so we really can't use that as an excuse. What should be done about La Cumbre? Do you think Macy's going to stay there, and Sears?
When I started this process of running for council here, I visited with the management out at La Cumbre Plaza, and they have a great group out there, and they're very forward thinking. They're looking at the experience of having people come to the mall. There's some new venues that are planned for the La Cumbre Plaza out there. They have, I think my count was somewhere around 10 empty spaces out there. It might be more or less at this point, but in any event, they're looking forward to filling those spaces. There's some conversation about Sears and the future out there. They're forward thinking enough to be looking out 10 years, which is, unfortunately, the city is not doing that. I'd like to see them and would make sure that we do that if I'm elected, but they're looking at what they're going to do with their parking lot, an empty parking lot,
Yeah.
if you will. Autonomous cars, Lyft, Uber, all the different modes of transportation that are going to be used in the future, and what that looks like. So, yay for La Cumbre Plaza. They are looking out into the future.
When you talk to them, Warner, did you get the sense from them that they're in a urgent or panic mode about the change in retail, about the dominance of Amazon, and that they're going to have to look for a different business model for that property?
Well, I think Amazon and the internet took all of us by surprise. I think we knew it was going to come, but not at the speed at which it did. And all we have to do is look at the empty Macy's building downtown. That's just the start of our brick and mortar facilities going away. And I just heard the other day, last night I think, or one of the last couple of days here, that Saks is not going to renew their lease. So therein lies the issue of keeping up with technology and being able to be forward thinking. And I think La Cumbre Plaza is doing that, and they're looking out into the future how to deal with the internet and Amazon and all of those things. And that's they're to be applauded for that.
What do you think La Cumbre Plaza is going to look like in 10 years? You think there'll be housing there?
I think I met with them too, and I think they're trying to do a model where it's service oriented. One of the things they're looking at is the housing that's already gone in there, such as the Mark, the Grace Homes, They have some are around, I think, 300 or 400 units that are being built, and some are already occupied at the Mark. So they're trying to take advantage of those who are already there by shifting their business model into more experience-oriented. They're having success with Lure. It's a great attraction. There's islands coming in, which will be a family-oriented
Lure,
place.
there's a fish
Yeah.
fish place, but it has a really exciting bar. I mean, there's a whole.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
You know, microbrews
doing a
and
good
wine
job.
tasting is the way of the future there. If you've noticed, if you go there, I go there with my kids sometimes, is they've put in a ping pong table, a large chessboard, and those types of things to get people to come in just to be there, to kind of say, hey, this is a place to come. You don't have to necessarily shop here. And then they want experience-oriented businesses, which is great.
What does that mean? What's an
It
experience?
means you have like yoga shops. You can have coffee shops. You have microbrews that have local breweries there, wine tasting. You have music, and those types of things, which get people to mingle. And one of the visions is to kind of open up the center of the plaza there and allow some of the businesses to expand out into it. And it's actually a great model. What they're envisioning, I think, would be kind of a test case for some of the ideas that are going for downtown State Street, because the housing has already been built and is being built there, and the types of businesses they want there. So whatever goes on there, we can take lessons learned and translate it down to State Street, because they're already ahead of us.
Well, and obviously, District 5 is sort of Exhibit A for what's going on with the AUD, our housing program, and also what people don't like about the AUD. Eric
Right.
mentioned the Mark. How would you describe or characterize, what people are feeling about the AUD and the whole housing situation in your district?
Well, I think it's a start with regard to affordable housing, workforce housing, if you will. My preference is to bring the AUD efforts down towards the core center of town, down on State Street, preserving the neighborhoods and bring that AUD activity downtown. That'll do several things. There's a proposal for Macy's to be a mixed-use facility, using that as an example.
Downtown?
Downtown.
Not the La
Yeah,
Cumbre.
they're actually doing a little bit better out at La Cumbre, not setting the world on fire, but a little bit better, and that's good news. But downtown, the commercial on the ground floor, and then residential above that. So bringing people into the center of town is going to do many different upsides to it, and that is motor transportation, ability to walk to work, use bicycles, use the venues that are available for transportation downtown rather than own a car, and create that whole scenario that's probably maybe not in our lifetime, maybe in his, will be an autonomous vehicle.
I think I'm the old guy.
Okay.
Here. I'm not sure. But So on that point, we were talking before the show about the Mark a little bit, about, that's the first thing that emerged from the AUD program, these rents that by no stretch of the imagination are moderate, $3,400 for 2 bedrooms and so on. I mean, what's your take on all that? What should happen with that? You mentioned that a lot of those apartments are empty. They're not getting what they thought they were going to get for market rate.
Yeah, so with the AUD program, I think one is, I agree that we need to shift the conversation to housing in appropriate areas where businesses and people can walk to work. It's unfortunate that the Mark was the first one out the gate. There was a lot of things with that project. It was luxury housing. There's a lot of amenities in there. They have a gym in there when they have 2 gyms across the street. So it kind of adds to the cost. But my concern is that if we got the AUD program, and the city council decision, I think, was premature to cap it at 125 without really understanding all the housing bills that came in and how they're going to affect us and lose local control. You can't make a decision in a vacuum, and I think that's what they did, because we don't understand it. And I would have liked to have seen the city have a public information item at the city council that looks comprehensively at all the bills that came through and what their impacts are to us. Because if we might not like the ADU or the AUD I'm sure we'll get to, but if we
We can talk about the VRBO too, if you want.
Whatever you want, we're here for you.
ABC.
But the point is that we don't know what the state is going to require from us going forward, and the more we can contain local control, the better we are. So we need to have that information before we make decisions.
Yeah, I mean, what can the city do? I mean, we do have the granny flat, the ADU program. That's a state mandate that all of a sudden now we're going to have. What are you going to do as a district representative to kind of ease the impact on neighborhoods.
We'll just call them granny flats, all right? And I'm supportive of that. I think that tends to preserve the neighborhood. It allows for families to stay together, for the younger folks to have a place to live and stay within the community. I'm hearing that from the folks that I talked about in District 5. We want to keep our families together and in Santa Barbara, and that, as we all know, is becoming more and more difficult as time goes on. So the granny flats go there. The granny flats are going to allow us to do that, and I'm very supportive of it. It is a state mandate. I know there's efforts to put a ordinance together to do some local control of that. City attorney feels that at this point, each of the items in that ordinance are grounds for litigation down the road, and just because of the way the state's mandated that we accept the granny flat ADUs, and then I think we should embrace that and move forward with it and begin. And the numbers support that. And Eric had those the other night. But I think this year we have 200 applications for it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I mean Warner makes the case for ADUs certainly from a housing perspective. But what about from parking and congestion? I mean, isn't that going to impact your neighborhoods?
Yeah, there will be impacts. So I think it's important, one, that we collect the data as they come online. It is a state mandate. There is an upside to it, but as with everything, there's always the negative side. So we need to look at that issue of parking and neighborhood circulation and see what we can do to upgrade our infrastructure, look at how we can get people out of cars that are coming in, and those types of things. But I agree with Warner that this is an opportunity for families to stay together in their homes. It's also an opportunity for seniors who are on a limited income to have another supplement their income and be in their homes. So we have to look at that, but again, keep the data.
So a net positive from your perspective. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, Warner, that the airport is in your district.
It is.
And I don't mean to bash Goleta, but they sure seem to complain about everything that Santa Barbara wants to do, from the master plan to the light industrial use project. What would you do that's not being done to try to spur economic development out there and kind of get Goleta on board?
Well, the airport's is doing better every year as we go along here, and I think we look at the whole South Coast as a big neighborhood. We're all in the same area here. We have to work collaboratively together to be able to get along. And when you look at the Carpinteria, Montecito, the city, Goleta, and the county, we're all going to have to work more closely together and in a more collaborative manner. And I think that the airport is a venue for people, all of our visitors, to come in. And Goleta is, I think we have 3 or 4 new hotels that are coming online. So that's going to be an access for all of those folks that are coming here to visit. But the light industria that's proposed along Hollister Avenue out there are looking at the traffic mitigation issues in the study that was done out there. It's minimal into the year middle of 2025, 2030, less than 1% impact from light industry. The direct relief building that's being built out on the vacant land out there is a large facility, but very minimal impact. That's just, it's really a storage facility. So any growth that's going to take place, if you look at the airport, the AOA, which is the operational area out there, that's limited to what it's designed for, and that is the aircraft. So really the property on the north side of Hollister, if you will, is where the development's going to be taking place. And so I think what's being proposed is reasonable, and I would work with the city of Goleta to be more collaborative and work on the upsides of things rather than start to get into a contentious.
You'd never make it as a journalist with that kind of attitude.
Well, you know, I know a couple of folks out there in Goleta. I've been here long enough to do that, and they're on the city council out there, so I've already had a couple of conversations. And I think it's possible to sit down and like right here, have a cup of coffee and talk about it rather than start throwing lawsuits at each other over issues that are going to waste the taxpayers' money. And at the end of the day, we're going to end up where we're going to end up anyway. So.
Do you think we're headed for the best and highest use of the airport? Do you think
I agree that facility in light industrial and kind of a tech corridor there, I think it's a great opportunity, especially since we have a lot of students graduating from UCSB who are some of the best talent in the world who are creating startups, and they don't necessarily need to enter into a long-term lease. They're trying to get their business started, and to have that kind of synergy out there and be really close to the amenities that UCSB offers. I mean, the founder of Lyft is from Santa Barbara, and so why should we have students who come here, they're invested in our community, they want to live here, but then they can't afford to live here, they don't have the opportunity to start their businesses, and they go to other areas and they are literally the next billion-dollar business. We need to capture that here, and I think that's a part of it. And then the airport itself, I think, is making positive gains. We've had flights are up this year. I was looking at the economic impact is something like 2,000 jobs regionally, or more than that, plus 200 million. And it's a way for us to connect our businesses to other areas as well. We added the Dallas connection, and Dallas is one of the most traveled airports in the world. So it really makes us a hub to focus in on our emerging industries, but also our tourism industries.
Yeah. Well, Warner, I want to talk a little bit about your experience in emergency services and fire services. One of the candidates for mayor, Hal Conklin, the other night raised the issue. He said he thought that the local government is very well prepared for a massive earthquake or some huge disaster, but that people are not. That the residents are woefully unprepared was the phrase he used. You agree with that?
Well, I agree that there needs to be a public education program that needs to be enhanced citywide.
That we haven't undertaken.
We have not. We started out with that a few years back, but that position, I believe, was cut, and we're not where we need to be with public education, countywide, citywide, and in particular this South Coast area, and so in a lot of areas. Okay, so I think. With regard to emergency response, we need a public education program that brings attention and awareness to be prepared. Everyone needs to be prepared for at least 72 hours. Government's not going to get to you if there's an earthquake or a tsunami or a wildland fire.
Well, especially with our end of the transmission line situation.
Yeah, you're going to be on your own for 72 hours. We paid great attention to that during the Sherpa fire. I happened to be assigned to that fire. If that transmission line goes down, it shuts down the South Coast, basically. So, and unfortunately, all the generators they brought in anticipation for the large La Nina rain event, they had a month earlier taken them away. Where those generators go? So we're on our own here. This really is an island, and people need to absolutely be prepared on 72 hours on their own. And that public education needs to take place, and not just with emergency services. I think it needs to be across the board. What the city is doing and how we're spending our efforts and time and money, especially with the. I know we're going to talk about 1 cent sales tax, but there needs to be a great.
You're for that. You're for Measure C.
I am. Yes, I am.
You're for Measure C.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I didn't mean to segue into it.
No, that was a good segue because I wanted to get
public
to
education is lacking, and we need to get.
You've done this before. I have a feeling. All right. So here's the thing. So I talked to all the reporters, talk to each other, and they tell me you two guys have like this bromance going on. So here's what I want to know is tell me one thing that you and Warner would disagree about.
That's a tough one because I think we share a lot of the same values, and honestly, I don't have something that we're really vehemently opposed to each other on. I think it's just the nuance and the devil's in the details of how we would go and implement it and using our experience to implement those measures. But there isn't something that we're really far apart on there.
How about you? One thing you really disagree with Eric on?
I would agree with that. Eric's got more hair than I am. I'm a little jealous about that, but
okay.
but I have to tell you, yeah, I would just say it's an experience from my perspective. Experience I bring that to the table, and been at this for 47 years, and so and so we have a different approach, but I think it's valuable for both perspectives.
All right.
I'm not. If you're looking for a fight, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's getting pretty late. Hurry
I
up.
know.
All right, so we got about 2 minutes left. So take it away, Eric. Just talk to the camera, talk to the voters, tell them why they ought to vote for you.
Okay, well, thanks again for inviting us tonight. You know, I grew up here in Santa Barbara County, and I went to Monte Vista, where I have a third and a fifth grader now, and my wife, Julie, and I met paddling outrigger canoes at Santa Barbara Outrigger years ago, and we're raising our two sons in the city we love, and Santa Barbara's at a crossroads, and we need a new vision on the council to address many of the issues that we've talked about: water, transportation, housing, economic development, public safety. And I think having the perspective of having grown up here and now having worked in public policy at the county for 14 years, gives me that perspective. I've also served a number of local nonprofits as well on the board of directors of Calm, and have been a youth mentor. So I have that citywide perspective, and then also the region-wide here, working again with Carpinteria and Summerlin, Montecito, Goleta. So I'm really looking forward to addressing the challenges that are coming before us, and be honored to have your votes. That's for you, Jerry. And I appreciate being here today.
All right, Warner, take it away.
Thank you, and again, thanks for having us this evening. I really
Thank you for
appreciate
coming.
that. Well, I bring to the table 47 years of experience in government, and I most of that has been in a leadership role, and I have spoken before City Council, both behind closed doors and in open session, presented budgets, constructed budgets, worked as acting city administrator when needed. I've actually created state legislation and traveled to Sacramento to work on that endeavor, so I have experience at the city, county, and state level with regard to government, and I feel that I have the ability and the talent to walk through the system that we have here in Santa Barbara and get things accomplished. The city needs a lot of help right now, and it's, Eric's absolutely right. We're at a crossroads, and this is going to be a very important election, so I urge everyone to get out and vote. And I'd like for you to vote for me. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks to tonight's guests, Warner McGrew and Eric Friedman. And I mean, just on a personal note, I think we have such quality candidates in this race in all the districts and for mayor. And I just, you know, I'm on behalf of everyone here at TVSB, and I think the whole city, really thank them, because it's a grueling process that they go through, and it's a great service, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you for doing it. And thank you all for watching, and please visit our website, newsmakerswithjr.com, where you can check out my regular blog posts on the campaign and politics in Santa Barbara, and find our entire series of interviews with the candidates for mayor and district council seats. And tonight, thanks to our director, Oscar Gutierrez, to our crew, Alex, Debbie, and Ryan, our marketing and branding consultant, Maggie Mabucci, our law firm, Dewey, Cheatham & Howe, and as always, our top-ranking, high-powered, high-energy senior executive producer, Hap Freund. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.